The Panopticon is real. How you're being watched without knowing surveillance capitalism explained. The eye that watches all. The Panopticon and the rise of invisible control. It began as a prison design. It became the blueprint for modern life. Bentham's prison of the mind. The origins of the Panopticon and its philosophical intent. Beneath the misty hills of the English countryside stands a relic of justice long abandoned. Stone walls once meant to hold the wicked, now echo with something else entirely. The ghost of punishment and the birth of control. This isn't just a prison. It's where the idea of surveillance was born. The year was 1791. The thinker, Jeremy Bentham. What he proposed was radical. A prison unlike any other. Circular in design. Cells lining the outer wall. And in the center, a single watchtower. Not just to guard, but to be seen guarding. Prisoners couldn't see the guard, but they knew at any moment they might be watched. That uncertainty, it rewrote behavior. Bentham called it the Panopticon. It was never built exactly as he imagined, but the idea escaped the blueprint. It seeped into schools, into factories, into the very structure of modern power, not through violence, but through visibility. Because when you think you're being watched, you act differently. Today, we call it surveillance. Back then, it was reform, a vision of control through architecture. But centuries later, that tower has evolved. It's no longer built from brick and stone. It's code, it's cameras, it's algorithms that never sleep. The 18th century eye in the tower has become the global lens of the 21st century. And the question remains, who watches the watchers? And more importantly, when do we stop watching ourselves? We never did. In fact, we built something worse. The 18th century Panopticon was made of walls and windows. Today's version, made of data, your GPS location, your search history, your voice, your face, not stored in towers, but in cloud servers, sold, leaked, tracked, and where Bentham envisioned reform, cybercriminals see profit. The surveillance state became a black market paradise. Now, it's not just governments watching. It's ransomware groups, voice cloners, deepfake extortionists. They don't need to break in. They already have the keys. Your digital footprint is a blueprint for manipulation. Every login, every message, every late-night scroll, a mirror of your behavior turned against you. Because in 2025, the most valuable asset isn't oil or gold. It's trust, and it's being weaponized. One breach at a time. This is a theory. It's the new economy of crime, built on stolen identities, traded in dark markets, fueled by AI. Welcome to the age of synthetic control, where the walls are invisible, the guards are algorithms, and the prisoners are all of us. This is Paul Cyber, signing in. File 048 decrypted. The eye that watches all. Disclaimer. This video is produced for educational and informational purposes only. It is a documentary-style exploration of historical concepts, surveillance technologies, and their socio-political implications. All references to individuals, organizations, systems, and events are based on publicly available information, expert commentary, or dramatized interpretations for clarity and narrative engagement. This video does not endorse or promote any form of illegal activity, surveillance abuse, conspiracy theory, or political agenda. Opinions expressed by interviewees or fictionalized representations are included solely for educational commentary and do not reflect the views of producers. Viewer discretion is advised for sensitive topics such as privacy, control, and behavioral psychology. No graphic, violent, or harmful imagery is shown. This content is compliant with YouTube's community guidelines and policies and is intended to encourage critical thinking, digital literacy, and ethical awareness in the age of modern surveillance. If you are featured or referenced in this content and wish to raise a concern, please contact the channel directly for clarification or resolution. Let's flip through the files. In a world obsessed with control, one man dared to build the ultimate machine for obedience. Not with whips, not with chains, but with vision. A single eye, cold, unblinking, watching everyone, or so they thought. This is the story of the Panopticon, a design that changed the world without ever being fully built, a philosophy that still haunts our prisons, our schools, our screens, and maybe even now your mind. One question: who is watching the watchers? Bentham's Prison of the Mind, London, 1791, a city of fog, filth, and ideas. Beneath the chimneys and the noise, one man dreamed of building a machine, not of gears and steam, but of obedience. His name was Jeremy Bentham, philosopher, reformer, visionary. Some called him a genius, others a madman. And the thing he sketched that night would outlive every wall ever built. It was called the Panopticon, the birth of a blueprint. Dr. Annabelle Stokes, historian, interview. The Panopticon was unlike anything proposed before. A prison where inmates would be constantly visible, but never know if they were being watched. Bentham described it as a new mode of obtaining power of mind over mind. It is the idea of being seen that tames a savage impulse. Not chains, not pain, but possibility. A circle of cells, a dark tower with reflective glass slits, prisoners pacing nervously. The design was brutally simple. A circular structure, dozens, hundreds of cells facing inward. In the center, a watchtower with shaded windows. The guard could see everyone, but the prisoners, they could see nothing. Stairs upward toward the tower. There's no movement, no sound. Still they hesitate. Bentham believed the uncertainty alone would compel obedience. If you might be watched, you would behave as if you always were. A perfect system of invisible control. Millbank Prison Site. 1800s London construction scenes. Building the invisible cage. By 1794, Bentham was obsessed. He wrote to Parliament, to royals, to anyone who would listen. Dr. Stokes, interview. He proposed building a national prison, a moral laboratory, where inmates would reform themselves. He even offered to supervise it personally. Bentham, let the watchfulness be invisible and let the fear be eternal. But his dream found resistance. The crown was wary. The church found it inhumane. And some fear it worked too well. Still, parts of it were built, just not as Bentham imagined. Architect Raymond Hale, interview. Millbank Prison adopted many of Bentham's principles, especially the layout for centralized observation. It wasn't a pure panopticon, but it was close, and it terrified inmates. Power of mind over mind. Bentham's core idea was radical. You don't need violence to control people. You only need the threat of a gaze. Dr. Stokes, interview. The Panopticon wasn't just a prison. It was a metaphor for civilization, for how power disciplines from within rather than above. Even as Bentham's blueprints gathered dust, the idea had already escaped its cage. And a century later, it would be rediscovered by a man who saw prisons in everything around him. Foucault's revelation. We are in the age of panopticism. Discipline is no longer brutal. It is elegant and invisible. French philosopher Michel Foucault reawakened the Panopticon, transforming it from a prison design into a weaponized metaphor for modern society. Dr. Jean Leblanc, Foucault scholar, interview. Foucault saw the Panopticon everywhere, in institutions, in capitalism, in how we dress, speak, perform, always aware of being seen. Panopticon 2.0. Bentham could not imagine the internet, but the logic of the Panopticon lives in every camera, every app, every tap you make. Maya Burns, cybersecurity analyst, interview. Social media isn't just about connection. It's about surveillance. You curate your behavior because you know someone's watching. Your boss, your crush, your government. A prison with no guards, no bars, only the possibility of judgment. And you don't resist because you've been trained to comply. The invisible walls. Bentham's tower never cast a shadow across London, but in a deeper sense, it never needed to, because it's no longer made of brick or glass. It's made of you. Dr. LeBlanc, interview. You are the inmate, but also the guard. That's the genius and the terror of the Panopticon. And this was only the beginning. A perfect prison doesn't need walls, only the fear of being seen. Jeremy Bentham. Foucault's Ghost. How a forgotten blueprint became the blueprint for modern power. When the tower disappeared, the power remained. 1791. A prison of perfect sight. Abandoned, forgotten, dismissed as fantasy. Until nearly 2 centuries later, a different kind of architect picked up Bentham's circle and made it a lens to expose the world. This is the story of Michel Foucault, a philosopher, a heretic, a ghost in the machine of modern life. Discipline in the shadows. Michel Foucault lived through a century of control, world wars, psychiatric asylums, prisons, schools. He asked a radical question. What if society doesn't free you? What if it trains you? Dr. Jean LeBlanc. Foucault scholar, interview. In Discipline and Punish, Foucault argued that punishment had evolved. It wasn't about pain anymore, it was about behavior. And the Panopticon was a perfect metaphor. The machine of behavior. Foucault, the major effect of Panopticon, to induce in the inmate a state of conscious and permanent visibility. Discipline is no longer delivered with a whip. It's embedded in routine, in structure, in silence. Dr. LeBlanc, interview. He called it panopticism, the idea that people shape their lives around the invisible gaze. Not just inmates, but everyone. The Stasi, a nation of watchers. The Panopticon wasn't just an idea. In East Germany, it became reality. Dr. Eric Schmidt, Stasi historian, interview. The Stasi created one of the most complete surveillance states in human history. Nearly 200,000 informants, neighbors, teachers, even spouses. Everyone watched everyone. You stopped speaking freely. Not because they were listening, but because they might be. A living panopticon. No tower, no light, just suspicion. Modern discipline. Today, surveillance isn't political. It's procedural. Discipline hides in spreadsheets, in algorithms, in HR software. Dr. LeBlanc, interview. The Panopticon is everywhere. In your school, in your Zoom call, even in your fitness tracker. You shape your behavior to meet the standards. Not because a person is watching, but because the system is. The algorithm is warden. Maya Burns, privacy analyst, interview. We're moving from Foucault's metaphor to automated discipline. Surveillance AI doesn't care about morality. It only enforces performance. You no longer fear punishment. You fear noncompliance. And that is still Bentham, still Foucault, still the Panopticon. The ghost inside you. Foucault is gone, but his ghost lingers. Not in the buildings, but in the behavior. Dr. LeBlanc, interview. The Panopticon wins when you forget it's there, when you watch yourself because you've been trained to, and so the tower disappears. But the eye remains. We live in a society where every gesture is a performance. Michel Foucault, Walls at Sea. When nations built the Panopticon for real, it is the idea of being seen that tames the wild mind. One man designed a perfect prison, not with bars, but with a gaze. But it didn't stay in the prison. It escaped. Dr. LeBlanc. The Panopticon became a system for living, for controlling, for shaping who we are. Maya Burns. You're not just being watched. You're being measured. From 1791 to TikTok, from prisons to pockets. This is not the future. This is now. Walls at sea. What if the walls weren't meant to hold you but to see you? The island prison. Off the coast of Cuba lies an abandoned monument to control. Not a ruin of war, but a vision, the Presidio Modelo, built not just to confine, but to observe. Dr. Martin Ruiz, Latin American historian, interview. The Panopticon wasn't just theory. Cuba built it. Bentham's dream made concrete. 5 perfect circles. 5 eyes. Prisoners of the gaze. Each building housed 1,000 inmates, watched by a single guard high above, or at least that's what they believed. Former inmate review.
You didn't speak. You didn't sleep. You didn't rebel. Because maybe, just maybe, he was watching.
Dr. Ruiz. Castro later used that same design to control others. It was more than architecture. It was psychological warfare. The walls that listened. But walls didn't just watch from above. In East Germany, they listened. Dr. Erich Schmidt, Stasi historian, interview. The Stasi collected more than 6 million personal files. They wiretapped phones, bug bedrooms, hid microphones in teddy bears. Survivor, Anna Berg report.
I learned to whisper when I was 7, not because my mother told me, because I saw her do it. Panopticon evolved. No more towers, just ears.
Cameras in the West. While Eastern regimes fell, the West found a new gaze, not ideological, but institutional. Maya Burns, privacy analyst, interview. London is the most surveilled city in the Western world. Over 600,000 cameras. Your route to work is probably recorded start to finish. What began as public safety became permanent infrastructure. What began as protection became perception management. You're not just seen, you're profiled. And the system learns from how you walk to when you pause. Bentham imagined a single tower. Now the city is the tower, and the light never turns off. You are not told when you are being watched, because they don't need to. The brilliance of the modern Panopticon is that it makes surveillance feel normal. The data prison. Dr. Lena Sau, urban AI researcher, interview. It's not just about seeing anymore. It's about predicting. Surveillance grew a brain. From Chicago to Shenzhen, from CCTV to smart cities, the new guard never blinks. China's digital Panopticon. In China, the Panopticon is complete. Maya Burns interview. Facial recognition. Social credit. Surveillance isn't hidden. It's gamified. One wrong move, and you might lose your ability to travel, to borrow money, to rent an apartment. Zhang Wei says,
My son couldn't enter university because of my score. He cried. I smiled because I didn't want him to be punished for my face.
The prison of compliance. The most powerful prisons have no walls. Dr. Sau interview. The Panopticon isn't just architectural. It's internalized. We edit ourselves because we fear being seen incorrectly. The circle never ends. From concrete towers to data shadows, the Panopticon lives on. Not because we're forced to obey, but because we learn to monitor ourselves. You're not just being watched. You are watching yourself. The perfect prison is the one you never notice. God mode. Silicon Valley inherits the Panopticon. From social media to spyware, how data became control and privacy became currency. They said data is the new oil, but they didn't tell you who's drilling. How surveillance evolved from prisons and governments to corporations, platforms, and predictive technologies. God mode is the power to see everything, everywhere in real time. The election that never belonged to you. They didn't need guns. They didn't need tanks. They had your likes. The digital mirror. In the 2010s, the battleground of influence shifted. From the streets to the scroll. Dr. Shoshana Zuboff, author, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, interview. You don't search Google. Google searches you. Facebook doesn't serve content. It studies reactions. Every click, pause, swipe, it learns your fears. The mind hackers. Cambridge Analytica scraped 87 million Facebook profiles. They didn't ask. They didn't need to. Christopher Wiley archive audio.
We weaponized personality data to exploit tribalism. We didn't predict behavior. We shaped it. This wasn't influence. It was engineering.
When the platform became the Panopticon, Dr. Kathy O'Neill, data scientist, interview. Surveillance isn't about watching. It's about ranking. And once you're ranked, you're steered. The platforms knew what you watched, then decided what you should watch next. After 3 weeks, my feed was filled with conspiracies and hate. I never asked for it, but the algorithm wanted engagement. The gods of the shadow state. Enter Palantir. Funded by the CIA. Powered by data. Trusted to know what people will do before they do it.
God mode is real. You can see what they buy, who they meet, when they travel live.
They called it intelligence. We called it pre-crime. Pegasus, the ghost in your pocket. You never clicked the link. Didn't matter. Rana Ayub, journalist targeted by Pegasus interview. I didn't know. I just felt eyes. Then I learned my entire life was stolen. Through my phone. Pegasus was the ultimate backdoor. No clicks. No warnings. Total access. Dr. Eva Galperin, Electronic Frontier Foundation interview. The Panopticon went mobile, and this time it followed you home. The currency of consent. No guards. No fences. Just a checkbox. Maya Burns, privacy expert interview. Surveillance today doesn't violate consent. It manufactures it. They don't need to arrest everyone. They just need you to know they could. Escape velocity. A new resistance formed. Anonymous. Encrypted. Masked. They watch us. So we disappeared. Snowden archive. When surveillance is total, freedom is conditional. That is not liberty. That is control. Who watches the watchers? The Panopticon no longer stands in stone. It hums. It learns. It adapts. It doesn't watch you because you're guilty. It watches you because it can. The greatest trick surveillance ever pulled was making you think it was free. Scoring your soul. The rise of China's social credit system. From facial recognition to biometric databases, explore how behavior becomes currency and conformity becomes survival. It doesn't just watch your behavior. It ranks your worth. Tone. Dystopian realism meets investigative thriller. Think Black Mirror meets Citizen4, backed by cold facts and chilling consequences. Judge, jury, and algorithm. He crossed the street. Now he can't buy a train ticket. The blueprint of obedience. In 2014, China began a social experiment, one with no precedent. A national scoring system, not just for banks or loans, but for people. Suzanne Chitty, China digital monitoring researcher interview. The system promised trust, safety, prosperity, but what it delivered was obedience, by design, scored for everything. It wasn't just whether you paid your bills. It was who your friends were, what you posted, what you bought. Chinese citizen testimony.
I couldn't book a flight. My score was too low. Why? I followed the wrong blogger. List of discredited persons. Over 13 million banned from flights and trains.
Dr. Samuel Su, East Asia tech ethicist interview. This wasn't punishment. It was correction, preemptive, automated, invisible. The surveillance superstate. Across China, over 600 million surveillance cameras. More than half the world's total. The cameras don't just see faces. They measure gait, mood, emotion. They detect dissent before it starts. Uyghur exile. We lived in a cage of data. Every step logged. Every prayer counted. From compliance to conformity. Shame became a feature. Conformity a survival tactic. Li Wei, Beijing resident interview. When your score drops, you don't just lose privileges. You lose your community. It wasn't about watching criminals. It was about making sure you never became one. Technology exports. And then China exported it. Surveillance tech analyst interview. They called it smart cities. But the intelligence wasn't neutral. It was political. This wasn't innovation. It was influence wired in. Silicon Valley's reflection. But the West, it wasn't far behind. Dr. Julia Angwin, Algorithm Transparency Project interview. China made it obvious. In the West, it's opt-in surveillance. We give it all away willingly. A woman denied a job because of online reputation score. An Uber driver removed after bad GPS pattern detected. Social scoring without the name. Different tools. Same control. The resistance is rated too. Activists in Hong Kong using laser pointers to blind facial scanners. Protesters covering cameras with umbrellas. Hackers defacing social credit databases. In the shadow of scoring, resistance coded its own path. We didn't want to destroy the system. We just wanted to be seen as human. Chinese teens escaping digital dependency. U.S. whistleblowers exposing biometric abuses. Tor networks lighting up across repressive regimes. In a world of numbers, humanity became the rebellion. What's your score? Would you like to know your social score? What if your future was already calculated? You don't lose freedom in one act. You lose it in data points. The future is watching. From AI-generated paranoia to deepfakes, brainwave surveillance, and quantum surveillance. Can humanity live free in an age of total visibility? When surveillance becomes prediction, do we still have free will? Predictive policing, brainwave surveillance, emotion recognition AI, quantum surveillance, and the battle for mental autonomy. Thought crimes. He didn't cheat. He didn't speak. He simply thought. Wrong. The future is watching. From vision to prediction. First we saw everything. Then we predicted everything. Now we try to control everything before it even happens. Predpol engineer, a non-interview. It started with statistics. But once the machine learns your patterns, it knows where you'll be before you do. Dr. Regina Hall, AI ethics professor interview. Prediction isn't justice. It's preemptive profiling, coded in bias, wrapped in math. Your brain is not private. In 2021, Chinese schools piloted focus monitors, brainwave scanners, real-time thought policing. Parent interview. She was punished for daydreaming. The AI said she wasn't focused enough. Neurotech expert interview. The moment your brain connects to the cloud, it becomes readable, hackable, monetizable. The last fortress of privacy, your mind, is being digitized. Emotion AI and digital empathy. Can AI read your mood? Yes. And it can also decide if your face looks dangerous. Zoe Breen, former Microsoft ethics researcher. One algorithm flagged a black man as aggressive because he frowned during check-in. Another misreads sadness as suspicion. AI doesn't just measure what you feel. It decides if you're allowed to feel it. Surveillance in the metaverse. In digital worlds, surveillance is total. Your eye movement, your reaction time, your neural feedback loop. Owned. XR privacy lawyer interview. The metaverse isn't a game. It's a panopticon where the walls are invisible and the guards are code. This time, you're not being watched. You are the product being trained. Quantum surveillance and the God key. China's quantum dream. Break every encryption. See every secret. Create the world's first unhackable surveillance state. NSA analyst, a non-interview. If quantum AI becomes reality, forget passwords. Forget privacy. It's total exposure at the speed of light. US and EU racing to build countersystems. Post-quantum cryptography efforts. Cyber arms race escalating. Surveillance will no longer need to watch. It will know. The final battle, agency versus algorithm. The final war isn't on a battlefield. It's inside your phone, your thoughts, your autonomy. Digital resistance architect interview. Surveillance thrives on passivity. The antidote? Disobedience. Every click is a choice. Every silence is consent. The algorithm isn't just watching, it's learning. The choice. The eye was never just a tower. It was a mirror, and now it's looking back. The Panopticon is complete. Now ask yourself, how will you live in it? Freedom is not the absence of observation. It is a refusal to be shaped by it. The future is watching. Loop back to Panopticon's origin and see how it was always about more than walls. It was about us. Here is how to defend your digital autonomy. In a world where you're always watched, the power to disappear is revolutionary. The final wall. This is not fiction. This is your data. Trapped, sold, profiled. You don't have to escape the system. You can rewrite it if they choose. Show me what's happening. You're guided through. How location data from 100 plus apps gets sold to data brokers within 3 milliseconds. Real cases. Pregnant women unknowingly track targeted ads, insurance denials. Deepfakes trained from stolen selfies. Predictive algorithms used by employers to pre-reject you. Welcome to the real world. Now, do you want to take back control? Yes, how? Or not sure? Stage 1. Breaking the surveillance loop. We begin with the 4 pillars of digital autonomy. 1. Obfuscate. 2. Encrypt. 3. Decentralize. 4. Disobey patterns. Each is a layer. You decide how deep you want to go. Pillar 1. Obfuscate. The art of being invisible. Tools presented. Brave or Firefox with uBlock origin. Fake GPS/location spoofers. Canvas fingerprint blockers. Temporary email generators, e.g. simple login. Firefox relay. User uploads a selfie. AI shows how 3 public photos plus LinkedIn can generate a full personality profile. The first rule of disappearing. Don't just hide. Confuse. Pillar 2. Encrypt. Everything private, nothing clear. You talk, you type, you store. Everything is exposed unless you lock it. Signal for communication. Proton Mail for encrypted email. Bitwarden or KeePassXC for local password management. Veracrypt for encrypted drives. Simple SSH tunnels for safe browsing. Encryption is not crime. It's consent. Pillar 3. Decentralize. Leave the mainframe. What can't be centralized can't be easily watched. Demoed alternatives. Matrix/Element decentralized chat. Mastodon decentralized social. IPFS interplanetary file system for files/websites. Peer-to-peer collaboration tools like CryptPad or Jitsi. Pillar 4. Disobey patterns. Algorithms hate chaos. If you always move the same, you become a loop. Break the loop. Rewrite your code. Tactics taught. Digital behavior randomizers, browsing, device use, search terms. Burner phones and privacy-first OS, Graphene OS, Calyx OS. Periodic identity resets. Data misdirection rituals. Flooding systems with false data. Final simulation. Escape or comply. A final choice. Stay plugged in, optimized, and vulnerable. Or switch to a slower, freer, encrypted life. Surrender for comfort, or resist for autonomy. This isn't about becoming invisible. It's about becoming unpredictable, unknowable, unmonetizable. In a world of watchers, only the disobedient are free. Digital freedom is not given. It is encrypted, masked, fragmented, and reclaimed. Paul Cyber signing off. See you in the next files.